Hey everyone, welcome to Inside Indiana Overtime again. I'm Alex McCarthy with Inside Indiana, and like Indiana tonight, I took to the road to watch this game. I didn't go to New York, obviously. I didn't go to Syracuse for this game, but I went to a friend's house, so that's the new surroundings here. But yeah, I came here to watch Indiana-Syracuse, of course. It was at Syracuse, and it was a very fun first half. Indiana fell behind 10-0 right off the bat, and it kind of looked like it was just going to be one of those nights for Indiana where they were off and where Syracuse just kind of had their way with them. But Indiana fought back, actually took the lead at one point, and was only down 4 at halftime. And then, of course, Syracuse really pulled away in the second half and ends up beating Indiana 69-52. The Orange, which still is strange to me that they're the Orange instead of the Orange Men now, but whatever. The Orange pulled away. They went on a 17-1 run at one point in the second half, which really just crushed Indiana and put the Hoosiers too far behind to really be able to get any closer for the rest of the game. Really, we saw in the first half IU was cold to start the game and then really started to heat up, especially Yogi Ferrell from behind the 3-point line, and then they went cold again. They went 12 minutes without a field goal, without points in the second half, which is incredible. And they were really, and the problem wasn't that they were shooting horribly after halftime, but the problem was that they couldn't shoot. They couldn't even get a shot off a lot of the time. Where they were turning the ball over, they were just figuring out ways to not get a shot off, to not just to not be able to score at all. I think they were something like 6 for 13 in the second half. The ESPN box score and the CBS box score differ a little bit, so it's kind of hard to tell exactly what the numbers were, but they didn't shoot horribly in the second half. They just hardly could get a shot off. Noah Vonleh is able to kind of figure out ways to score. Again, he was able to draw fouls really well tonight. He was 13 for 16 from the line, and he again didn't get his double-double, but led IU in scoring with 17 points. Yogi Ferrell, who had 9 first half points, ended with 12. It was another, he had a great span in the first half where he hit three-pointers. One of them was to, I think it was his shot that gave them the lead. He hit back-to-back threes. But in the second half, again, it was kind of like how he played against Syracuse in March, and people have kind of hesitated to draw ties between this game and that game because the stars are so different in different places, totally different teams. But in a lot of ways, this game was very similar, where Indiana just couldn't really shoot over the press hardly at all. I mean, they weren't shooting well from behind the arc. They weren't shooting consistently, really from anywhere. I mean, even within 10 feet, they weren't even shooting consistently. And then turnovers were just such a huge problem, where they only had a handful really in the first half. They did a pretty good job, and then after halftime, they really struggled in terms of ball security. I think they had 6 turnovers before halftime, 10 turnovers after halftime, and they only had 6 assists for the entire game. But that's Syracuse's MO. I mean, it's something that we said after that game in March, where you know what you're going to get with a Jim Boeheim team. You know what you're going to get with Syracuse in the Carrier Dome, and I mean, there's a reason that Syracuse is a top 5 team that's undefeated this year. It's very talented, but it's also just very hard to figure out that zone. They can make so many adjustments mid-game with that, where they can take away this part, they can take away this player, and Indiana just at times it just was really getting hung up, just getting trapped in the short corner and just things that that maybe you would have hoped, that Indiana fans would have hoped would be different from that game in March, where maybe and for stretches they were very different from that team that was in March, that was so stymied by that zone, where they were moving the ball well, they were moving, they were physically moving quite a bit to kind of find spaces and find little alleys and stuff like that. And they did. I mean, there were some plays in the first half. There was a stretch in the first half, really after the first 6 or 7 minutes, where Indiana was playing very well and was really outplaying Syracuse. Obviously they were behind 4 at halftime, but they started behind 10 to start the game. So they went on quite a run to be able to be in the game, and then out of halftime, just they were close for a couple minutes, and then for some reason, it just started to fall apart, and it seemed like maybe they were rushing a little bit too much. Maybe they're being a little bit too hesitant to shoot at times. Or quite a few times they're hesitant to shoot, just because maybe they hadn't shot very well. Maybe they weren't. I mean, maybe there's just a lack of confidence in that second half, especially after they went so cold for such a long time, and they missed so many shots from the field. But in a way, you knew this is what you were going to get at times with this Indiana team. Was a really young team that just can't. I mean, this is the jury's kind of still out on this Indiana team, but it's not like they're going to beat top 5 teams, especially at on the road in a true road game at a top 5 team. And maybe Syracuse won't end the season at top 5, but you know what I mean. Syracuse is ranked number 4 in the country, undefeated, finding ways to win, and going into the Carrier Dome, which is a tough place to play, even if Syracuse isn't ranked or anything like that. Where this is not necessarily an Indiana team that can really hang with a top 5 team, especially not at this point in the season when they're still so young, playing in their first true road game. I mean, they played well in quite a bit at Madison Square Garden a couple weeks ago, but that was obviously a neutral site. This is their first true road game and this was by far the worst that Indiana has looked so far, and I don't know if that was expected, maybe, but still I don't think many people expected it to get so ugly so quickly against Syracuse. I think a lot of people expected Syracuse to be able to win this game, and maybe win this game fairly easily, but I don't think many people really projected it to be a 20-point game for a lot of the second half. 18, 20, 22 points for a lot of the second half. So still a lot of things really to work on for IU. And again, Syracuse is a fairly unique test for Indiana. There are other teams that play zone, but there aren't very many teams, if any, who play it as well as Syracuse does, or pride themselves as much as the Orange do. But again, Indiana falls to 6-2, but comes back to Assembly Hall, where the Hoosiers haven't lost this year, and really haven't, apart from the LIU-Brooklyn game, really haven't been pushed very hard at Assembly Hall. And they come back this Saturday, just 5 days from now. They're going to play North Florida at 7:15. We'll be out there, obviously, again, instead of sitting on a couch watching the game. But we'll be there, and there's plenty of news elsewhere. I mean, lots of football news to keep up with, and a little bit of basketball recruiting, from time to time. So, keep coming inside Indiana, keep hitting us up. And again, thank you so much for watching Inside Indiana Overtime. Again, just to recap, Indiana loses 69-52 to Syracuse on the road. First true road game, biggest test of the season for IU. And we'll see how they respond. I'm Alex McCarthy with Inside Indiana, and thanks again for watching.